Hey everyone, this is Jordan from New St. Andrews College. I just want to invite you to join us for our upcoming Prospective Student Weekend, which is from April 13th to 16th. This is the same weekend as the Grace Agenda Conference, so if you're headed over to Moscow for that, you can register your visit also for the Prospective Student Weekend at nsa.edu. Two great events, graceagenda.com and your Prospective Student Weekend here at NSA. Hope to see you there and enjoy the podcast.
Hear the world calling, but son, don't you listen. They're only trying to drag you back into prison. That's right.
Welcome back to What Have You. I'm Rachel Jankovic. We're going to be haunted by the ghosts of past conversations this
I'm
time.
Becca Merkel.
We're
good.
podcasting
Wow.
live at night in a fit of the duds. And then we just started, and I said, oh, I had a story. And then Becca's sure I told it on the podcast
I was
already.
like, Rach, we've been here.
But I
seen
don't
it.
think I did. I think I've just told it to people in real life.
I just made that up because she told it at Sabbath dinner.
If I told all of you, I'm sorry that I did. But I'm going to tell
Just-
you again.
Bear with, guys.
I asked a friend of mine what she'd been reading lately, and she said she had read The Great Good Thing. And I was like, did you like it? And she's like, oh, I loved it. This is even an extra layer. She had borrowed God's Smuggler from me.
Okay.
So she said, oh, I loved it. But apparently this plug was about God's Smuggler, not about The Great Good Thing. But she said, I think every human should read it. Like, I should buy boxes of it to give away. So I took away from that huge endorsement of The Great Good Thing, and then later I was at Goodwill and I saw The Great Good Thing, and I was like, right, I knew I had heard of that. So I snagged it, went home, just blasted on through it, and it was cleverish and fine. Like, it was fine, but I was sort of intrigued by, like, why would she have said that every human should read this book? It didn't knock my socks
Didn't
off.
quite hit the A-list.
No, like,
for you.
it was like, interesting. But it was a page turner, you know, you dusted through it. It was interesting. So I see her at church, and I'm like, so what did you love about The Great Good Thing? Because I told her I got it at Goodwill, so I was like reading it. And she's like, well, it's just how patient God is with us. And I just sort of looked into the middle distance, racking my mind for how she pulled that theme out of it. Like, I was like, not that you couldn't find a way to say that in that, but pretty much not. Like, pretty much that was not a theme. So I was like, Then I said, so how far into it were you before you knew that the book would have to be rewritten? She looked off into the middle distance. She's like, and then I said, well, what was, like, your favorite part about it? And she was like, well, the part about Zen was really, and I was just like, about Zen. And I think at some point, the key point was that I asked a question specifically targeting the behavior of Princess Sylvie. And then she says, are we even talking about the same book? Which really explained everything all of a sudden. Turns out there are two books called The Great Good Thing. One of them is like a fantasy for middle graders. And it involves, as you may have guessed, Princess Sylvie, and does not really feature the theme of the patience of God. Because they're all imaginary characters in a storybook. So the patience of God is less the overarching theme.
Oh,
So
boy.
then, the other book that I now have listened to, I now have covered the turf on both Great Good Things. And that was by Andrew Klavan, like his testimony about a secular Jew coming to faith in Christ. And it was beautiful and great. But still not the book that she said every human should read. Right, and it was super good, and I loved how he is very Lewis Chesterton in the like someone who's gifted enough to formulate all of the different troubles of their life and the journey that you know, like the journey that it brought them on and where they got to different phases and places and then how God brought it all together for their salvation, you know, like, and it was is a really good book, and I love how he refers to joy and love all the time, but he calls it joy of my joy, like where he was always pursuing in Zen came up.
That's
yeah,
where
he was always pursuing this, like being totally in tune with the moment, like he was always trying to get that and never got it until he started praying, and when he would pray, it was like it was like the gratitude changed everything. And yeah, it was interesting. Anyways, it was a great book, and I do recommend that one.
That's really funny.
But now I just want to know, are there any other books called The Great Good Thing that I should also read? Because I'm open now to
the waterfront
paperbacks of any kind from Goodwill. I'm on it.
That's awesome. Wow.
But it was an edifying read.
That's fun.
The second one.
The second one.
The first one was just fine. It was just sort of a... I did wonder, like, why though? Why this? There must be some inner something going on here that I'm not
really
catching.
Funny.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, this is not what I've been reading. It's just what I've been out and about doing. I needed to have all of the NSA sophomores over for a breakfast, and I've been meaning to do it all year, and I have not managed to get around to it. And so this is the first week of the last term, and so this weekend, right before they all got back from break, Ben and I sat down with a calendar. We looked at from now till graduation, and basically the only weekend that I could actually invite them for was this coming Saturday, which I had not realized. So it was like, oh no, I've got to get their invitations. Oh shoot. So I quickly whizzed up an invitation. It's cute. I used a previous one, changed some details. Anyway, all to say it was a rush job. Then I quickly had them printed up, ran them down to NSA, put them all in their pages Sunday night so that when they got back Monday morning, they would have them, and they would have like the week to RSVP.
Prepare.
Yeah, to get themselves spiritually prepared, yeah. But mostly I just wanted to give them a heads up.
Right.
So, then later, after that's all done and dusted, I discover I misspelled sophomore on the invitation.
How did you misspell it?
Not once. No, twice.
How did you misspell it?
I didn't put in the middle O. There's 3 O's in there. I just went sophomore. I forgot.
Oh, not a sophomore.
A sophomore.
Oh man.
I just whipped right past that.
Have you all noticed that because I'm on the hospitality committee for Our Ladies Fellowship, I suppose this is why I end up having to text about RSVPs a lot.
Okay.
But every time I do RSVPs, my phone auto-corrects it to tacos, which is really odd because you'll be like, so how many tacos have come in? Every time, like the tacos. And it suggests the little emoticon of tacos.
Oh, that's good.
Do you do that? Do you use the emoticons that it suggests?
I never
when you do
do.
things?
No, I never.
Yeah, because I have a friend who kept texting me a purse, and I was just like, I don't get it. Like, how does the purse interact in this conversation? Like, where I would say something and then a purse. Emoticon would be like, bag.
What does it mean?
Purse, briefcase. I'm not getting any sounds like it's totes.
Oh my goodness.
Totes. But it's
because
because
that's a hard one.
It's because if you write out totes, it suggests this purse, but it's not a tote. This is
weird.
I feel like, and then I realized, I was like, I don't know, I never paid attention to this. If you say that's clutch, it will suggest a little pink clutch purse.
Weird.
I was like, man, this would be deep magic if we were all doing that all the time.
That's like practically
I would
getting into like Cockney rhyming slang.
It is. It's like, I don't think
Weird.
I could know.
Weird.
Yeah. Which,
Gosh.
speaking of the Cockney rhyming slang, I was thinking how funny and elaborate our social mores are about the drawing rooms of society, such as Facebook. And like how we think about those old rules and manners and things as being incredibly outdated, weird, dysfunctional people. But then
Are you talking about a kind of like Regency?
Yeah,
codes?
like the way that you'd be like, well, you should never waltz unless you've been approved by a patroness or something.
Right.
And I'm saying,
And only certain venues are okay to waltz in.
Be
anyway.
careful. Be careful with, or that if someone cut you, if someone important cut you, it would ruin you socially.
Sure.
But I was thinking,
Or Mr. Collins introduces himself at the ball, and that's terribly awkward. Terribly awkward.
right, instead of letting the master of ceremonies do it. And you're like, but it's funny how much of this we still have going on, except for it's all unwritten, unspoken. But if you unfriend someone on Facebook, people are scandalized.
Sure, yeah.
Or like if you did that is you are going to ruin them socially. Sort of.
Yeah,
like they
right.
act like that's what it is.
If you thumbs
basically.
down one
And
of
then
their...
like the formalities of someone posts a stupid selfie, everyone has to like it.
Everyone has to love it.
You
because
has to like it, and you has to.
Otherwise, you've basically called them fat.
Basically, yeah, you don't. And I was thinking how funny that is that we still
Yeah.
have a whole
Oh, we
lot of
do.
elaborate
We do.
manners,
We
but
do.
we just aren't as unified maybe in
No.
how we go about them.
Well, but then it's funny too because Facebook brings out also the other side of everyone, which is the need to shout and be rude and sarcastic.
Yeah,
When
it
you,
brings
you
out our
actually-
bad manners also.
Yeah, like it would actually probably, if you were just chatting after church, you wouldn't dig out that crazy sarcasm like people
Right.
feel led to when they're commenting on Facebook.
Yeah, or the all caps remarks of power. We're like, who are we helping with this? Like, I don't see the person who's being helped.
Oh,
There's an
that's funny.
awful lot of time on the internet that I think of it as being the don't grab a passing dog by the ears.
Oh my land.
Like, you're like, sometimes it's a mean dog.
I feel
like, why are there people who are turning into professional dog ear grabbers?
No, it's like as you're scrolling through your feed, you are looking at all the ears you could grab. But you
Not that
You
one, not
probably
today,
shouldn't.
not that one.
probably should let that little
My
one
husband's,
go past.
my husband's analogy for this is when it's the right time to do something. Is he said you should hunt off your back porch. Like it was like if there are deer on your back porch, you can hunt them, but no need to go rustling through the bushes looking for them. No need to travel afar
Well-
into the liberal meme Facebook page. and then flip out.
Well, and I don't get that anyway, because the idea of doing that is so boring to me.
Oh, it's epic.
It
boring.
just sounds terrible. Anyway,
It does.
that's funny.
It does sound terrible. All
I'm
right.
still caught up with my misspelling, Rachel. You didn't alleviate my guilt at all.
Your
Oh.
sophomore.
I know.
Well,
This is
what'd you
really
do about
lame.
it? You could send everyone 2 O's in the mail.
Just one. I only
You
forgot
did it
the
twice.
one. I did it twice.
So it's 2 O's.
But it's
Just
like,
give them 2
you
Cheerios.
can tell that
2
I did a
Cheerios apiece.
stupid cut and paste flurry.
Again.
Throw them
Yeah.
on into the. I know, it's terrible.
I have to make some pastries for this ladies' Easter brunch Saturday because Easter's coming.
Okay.
That's the day you're doing your breakfast, right?
No, not on Easter. I'm just doing it
This Saturday.
the day after tomorrow. Yeah.
That's when I'm doing it also.
Oh,
It's just the ladies' Easter brunch.
Sure.
And I haven't decided yet what pastries to do. So, what pastries do you think I should do?
well, that's where I am. I'm looking at my little sketch here, and I'm like, well, it's Thursday night. I'm not getting anything done tonight because here we sit behind Goodwill, casting pods
Probably
into the
for
night.
the whole night, too.
Tomorrow's Friday, and they're all showing up first thing Saturday. So
I was thinking about making Danishes and Bostock. Have you ever had Bostock?
No.
Well, I've not either. Never even
Okay.
seen it on the. Never seen
nor
it.
have I heard of it. What is
It's
it?
in my tartine cookbook, and it's
Okay.
with brioche, and it's like a piece of brioche. I think there's some kind of a syrup on the bread that's like I think the one in tartine is, but people do a number of different kinds of syrups. But the syrup in tartine, I think, is an orange blossom syrup
Okay.
that you paint on it. Then a layer of jam. Then a layer of an almond cream that you
Whoa.
make. And then you press slivered almonds onto it and bake it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is it just on top or is it rolled up or something?
Oh, just on top.
Awesome.
And I thought I might try it, but I don't know if I will. I mean, it kind of depends on how
I
things
think
shake out.
I'm with my breakfast. I'm sticking with the classics. So,
Of an omelet.
well, so there's
Cinnamon
this
roll.
really good, like that potato crust quiche that I do, where you kind of make a crust out of like hash browns, but you pre-bake it, brush it with melted butter, pre-bake the crust, then you fill it with the egg and cheese and stuff. So I've done this
Remember
little
that being
breakfast
like
before.
a mind-blowing event when it first came into our life?
Yeah. Well, it is good. I mean, it,
Yeah, no, but I remember
it
it being
combines
like,
all the
what?
things. Yeah, exactly.
Potatoes on a
Well,
crust?
I do a miniature version of that, and this is like the Speed Demon style. Like I do them in little muffin tins, like individual ones. But you throw 3 tater tots. 3 tater tots, guys. This is the cheap Speed version. In the bottom of each one. And then you bake it for however long, till they're soft. And then you just squish them out into a little crust, bake till it's crisp, and then fill with the stuff. And it's actually very nice. That's a good one. I'm going to do that in cinnamon rolls and bacon and yogurt, granola, berries.
That sounds good. I recently made granola, which I love. I love a good granola.
Homemade granola. Love
And
it.
I made the one that's real delicious that I love. That's a Food 52 on olive oil granola, and I do it with orange, like it's orange olive oil, but then it's pumpkin seeds and coconut and pecans, and it's radically delicious. Like
Okay.
it's so good.
Yeah.
But I didn't eat it because of the Weight Watchers that I try to do.
Yeah.
Because I was like, this is probably not. Oh, because it's maple syrup and olive
Sure.
oil, and
Granola's never a light.
it's not
Light
concentrating
situation.
on being light. No.
No.
So when it was mostly all gone and there was only a tiny bit in the bottom, I was like, oh, I'll have that for breakfast just so I can have some of that.
Yeah.
Without looking up the point values in my Weight Watcher budget first. That was just a real way to start a day because I think I only ate like 2/3 of a cup of granola. Like it was not very much. And I think I got like 23 points a day.
Yeah.
I think it was like 19 points. So what you're saying is a great way
Yep.
for me to lose weight and not gain it is to keep making homemade granola. That's disgustingly delicious.
Uh-huh.
That you're like, this has got to be healthy, but no, it's not the cautious path.
Granola's I think that's a cheap trick because
It's the food for field hands and
it
people who are
seems
burning
like
everything
it should
off.
be so healthy and so wholesome.
Well, I think it is. It's just that all you
Yeah, but
need
it's
is
like
like an
90
eighth of a
million.
cup to be enough fuel
Yeah.
for today and tomorrow.
I know. Oh goodness. So anyway, yeah, that's my little upcoming surpriser tomorrow.
So Easter, we talked about St. Patrick's Day, you said, but we haven't talked about
we haven't
Easter.
talked about Easter, guys, at all.
Well, we talked about it in the podcast we threw away.
We did another podcast, guys. You've probably noticed. we're
Sometimes
late.
we get on a funk.
Well, a funk is right. We talked for like 30 minutes, and we were both kind of looking at each other like, has anything happened here?
If the podcast is a chutes and ladders game, we were off the board. We were wandering
kind
around
where
in the
we-
shag carpet.
we kept qualifying each other's
Like,
remarks.
no. With no clear destiny for
No,
what we were
We
saying.
kept clarifying each other's remarks without knowing what those remarks were aimed at. But
It's us at our worst.
But
We
here's the
spared
deal.
you it.
This is what we need to talk about, guys. We were just talking about this in the car as we drove here
in
to
our pre-podcast, pre-funk party.
as we drove to our lookout here. the sort of mistaken notion that Christians can have that they have to be friends with everyone.
With all other Christians.
And the thing is there's a really distinct difference between friendship, like, you know, a friend that you enjoy doing stuff with for fun, and then the Christian charity and love that you owe to everyone. Fellow believers is one kind, but even your enemies, you owe charity to them, right? We're told to love our enemies. We're supposed to love our neighbor as ourselves. There's a base level of how we treat every other human, and that's actually not the same thing as friendship.
And it's love.
It's
That's
love.
part
You
of the
have
thing.
to love
It's
them.
love, and it's a command. And as my husband pointed out, that love and that when Scripture says, when Jesus says, love your neighbor as yourself, for that it's a summary of the law.
Yeah.
And so if you want to know what Jesus meant by loving your neighbor, it is don't lie about him in court, don't treat him, don't be full of envy, don't commit adultery with his wife, don't murder him, like, respect his goods and mind your own business.
If you
It's
find
kind of like
his wallet, return it to him.
yes, it's like treat your neighbor lawfully is
And-
treating your neighbor with love.
But you do it from the heart. That's the thing.
Yes.
So I think a good definition of love is treating the person lawfully from the heart. But your duty, what that lawful treatment looks like depends on the person. Like, if it's your enemy, then you have one set of obligations. If it's your mother, you have a different set of obligations. If it's your husband, it's a different set of obligations. So whoever the person in front of you is, you have to love them. And love does not equal warm, fuzzy feelings. That's not what love is.
And it also doesn't, loving a Christian sister is not the same thing as wanting to endlessly hang out with her.
Right.
In fact, it could be very unwise
But
to
I think
try to hang
the
out with
first
people
step where
constantly.
people go wrong on this is that they think that love means
Emotion.
and love does not mean emotion.
No, love means obedience to God's law.
Right. And so you have to, every person, you have a duty to love them, and you have to do it from your heart. So that part, that's where the sort of the emotion comes in. You can't just fake it. You have to actually mean it. And so, but because when Christ tells us to love our enemies, he's not saying you have to think they're amazing. Or you have to just really want to spend time with them.
Yeah,
or whatever. No, you treat them the way God says to treat them.
Yeah, and that's why also, like, praying for your enemies is a wonderful way to get yourself on the same page with when you really are asking God to do something kind for others.
Asking God to bless them.
Asking God to bless them, asking God to not hold their treatment of you against them, asking God to show himself to them, asking God, like, when you really ask the Lord to bless your enemies, you get your heart in the place it needs to be. You are from the heart loving your neighbor. You are like, I'm not going to be, like the envy. Don't covet. Do not covet. It's a psalm, isn't it? That says, fret not thyself because of evildoers, neither be thou envious.
Exactly.
And that is it's like, don't worry over them and don't be envious. Like, give it to God, get your heart right, and pray for them. But that is love. That love is not like an emotional, I wish I could spend all my time with this person.
No, and the problem is that there is a category of friendship which is different than that.
Right.
God doesn't require us to be friends with everyone. And in fact, Proverbs has quite a lot to say about who you should not be friends with.
And not being foolish about your companions.
Yeah, you're supposed to choose your companions carefully.
Your friends, and that's one of the things that I've said this, I know, on the podcast before when we talk with our kids, where like your classmates or your coworkers, they are not your friends automatically. Like they're coworkers. You treat them with courtesy, with kindness, with lawfully, right? You treat them the way you're supposed to. You love them, but it is not the same category as we go to all the birthday parties or we do all of the.
No, because think of even of course the classic list. What is love? Love is patient with them. It is kind to them. It does not envy them. It does not boast to them. It is not proud.
Yeah.
It is not self-seeking. It's
But
not
it's
easily
not-
angered.
It's
It
not
doesn't mean-
love is super into the same TV shows that your neighbor is,
Or
and it
love
remembers
is-
to bring you coffees.
Yeah, love is spending your Saturday afternoons every week. Love
No.
is having to go to every play date. That's
Right,
not
it's-
it.
No, and in many cases, Christian women think they're obligated to other people at a level that keeps them from loving correctly their own family. Like
Mm-hmm.
where you feel obligated to do something because you're supposed to love your neighbor, but you're actually afflicting your children by doing this.
Well,
Like,
I think one other thing, though, is friendships are a really easy thing for people to covet.
oh yeah.
Like if you think about don't covet your neighbor's donkey, I love that the donkey made the list. It's like, the thing
Because
is,
you might.
well,
you
you can
might be
imagine,
looking
like,
out there like,
a person
Dang
in the Old Testament, imagine them just being like,
just had
gosh,
that
it kills
donkey."
me, that donkey. And
he
of course,
doesn't even deserve that donkey.
And the
I'm gonna put that donkey to so much use.
it's the best donkey of all the donkeys, and he gets him. But
How
it's
is
like-
that donkey his and not mine?
But the thing is like, it's so easy to fall into coveting our neighbor's goods, but coveting friendships
What about
is
a car?
really, really, really
The
common.
current donkeys of
No,
the
but
world.
like, you see somebody else has a close friendship with someone, or they have a close.
Or a lot of the time, you believe that they might.
well, yeah,
Like a lot of the
yeah.
time, you don't even have the data.
yeah, and you're coveting your neighbor's parties.
those people are having a
Or-
super sincere fun time together.
Yeah, and I think this happens too, is that parents covet friendships for their children, and they resent other friendships in their children's age group, like as if
Well, like
your
where
child
they,
is owed the best friendship.
yes, and also that can be seen if you hasten to call everything a clique.
Oh yeah,
Like
Oh,
if
yeah.
you're like, well, they're obviously being a real clique.
yeah, because
You're like,
you
well,
know,
or maybe
I think if you
they're
just
friends.
look at Christ, there were the multitudes that followed him, but then he had the select group, and then even in the select group,
he had his
there's
favorites.
the apostle that Jesus loved. You know, so it's like, that is not a sin. It is not a problem to be closer to some people than others. Sometimes it's just naturally happens because you are in the same stage of life, or because you have the same sense of humor, or whatever it is that makes you friends with them. But I do think that people often think that they are owed friendship in the way that they are owed Christian charity, and those two
Right,
things are
and
not
it's
the
not
same
true.
thing.
And they think that about, like, if so they've been invited. Mom has made this point before, which I think is great. So she would have people telling her, like, I don't have any friends, nobody wants to hang out with me, it's a sad
Right.
time, you know what I mean, like, I've
Mhm.
not been, and she'll be like, well, tell me who all has made an effort to reach out to you. And almost all the time there are people on that list, but
Right.
they are not the people that you wanted to have had reach out to you, because you had your eye on a different
Right.
target. You were like, I wanted to be part of that
group over there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I'm discontent with this because of that. And I told on this on the podcast? I know I said it when I talked on friendship recently about our preschool times with someone being sad at recess. when they
Oh,
were in
yeah,
preschool.
yeah, you
Have I said it on
have.
the
Uh-huh,
podcast
uh-huh.
about the dog food bowl? It's like that the soup bowl. I said make a soup bowl out of pea gravel, not dog food. Anyways,
Yeah.
it's like make soup. You have to make soup this recess. That's your job.
Right.
I don't care if no one wants to play with you. You will make soup in the pea gravel, and you will report back to me on how it went. And that's what you're
Yeah.
doing at recess. And then when we got her, picked her up, I was like, so, what did you do? And it was like, oh, I made soup with the pea gravel. And I was like, so did anyone else play with you? It was like, oh yeah, well, the whole class did it. And it was such a good example. Like, I was like, well, if you see someone standing off to the side feeling sorry for themselves, do you think, man, I would like to get in on that fun time?
Right.
Right? Like,
Right.
best thing I can think of doing is to go stand there with that person. But then when you see someone who's, like, full of enjoying life and having
Yeah.
fun and being joyful, it's like, how much does everyone want to join in on that?
Yeah, and I think this is all about, though, everybody has their different obligations in any given social situation. We always like to apply what the other person ought to be doing. But
Right.
the person who's feeling alone and sad on the sidelines, their duty is to not fall into self-pity. And then the other people who are having fun, their duty is to look for strays. Look for people they
Totally.
can loop in.
And
like,
actually,
come over here and play with us.
even. Oh dear, I'm yawning. I would say even more than that. Your duty, like when you feel needy in a particular way, look for how you can give that to someone else. Because when you're feeling like I'm feeling really alone, or I'm not feeling like anybody cares about me, well, take that minute to look around and say, well, how can I reach out to someone else? How can I encourage someone else? How can I, if you're feeling like, man, my husband isn't valuing my work, then say, how can I really encourage my husband in his work today? How, like, when he comes home, because I feel like he has not acknowledged my work in a long time, and I feel needy.
Yes.
When he comes home, shall I say, have you no heart? Quoting Eunice.
Because basically...
Because we always like to quote Eunice from What's Up, Doc.
What's Up, Doc is a fabulous show.
Do you want to start out by being like, how dare you not acknowledge my work? Or can you take that moment and say, when was the last time that I said, thank you so much for faithfully going to the office every day and doing this for us, and I know it's not easy, and I admire your work. And you think, like, does that get more or less results?
Well,
that's the part that's
I
funny.
mean, I've probably said this before, but I do think we as humans have this horrible trait where the thing we most need, when we try to grab it, we do it in a way that is calculated to produce the opposite. So when a wife starts going, why don't you ever say that you love me? Because it's like,
don't you think I'm beautiful? So beautiful.
You don't, do you? No, you don't. And so the thing is, like, in what way?
And a husband gets huffy puffy, demanding respect, and children are at their most snotty, clingy, difficult when they most need people to love them
and affection.
Yes.
But we do the thing that drives away what we need, and it's because we're trying to grab it. And so as soon as you're trying to grab the thing, you become obnoxious to everyone, and nobody wants to give it. And that actually doesn't change their obligation to give it, but it does mean that you're making it awful hard on everyone. And so I just think the people who complain about not having friends, they are kind of putting a few roadblocks in the way of getting them.
Oh my word.
However,
are they ever? Because they're putting out there, like, it's like one of those impossible want ads. Do you know what I mean? It was like looking for a friend. Like, looking for a friend to unattractive woman with a bad attitude. Must be on time, energetic, sweet, thoughtful, playful at the right moments, witty. Reads, it's like this huge list. It's like, who's gonna call that number? Like that is the most devastating. Like, or it's like black hole of neediness, looking for sacrifices. Aren't you brave enough?
Oh my word!
But it's like that. Instead of it being like, I'm looking for someone that I can bless with something, it's like, here's what I need from you. Are you interested? Pay $0. Expected hours.
Oh gosh, but I do think that this misconception does really goof everything
because
up.
when that joke about the want ads, the problem is the people who do that think that they are like, this place is shameful with how few people are responding to the ads.
Right.
They're always rebuking everyone because they think that Christians owed them that.
Yes.
Like that, rather than owing you, treating you lawfully from the heart and nothing beyond that.
Right.
Like, other Christians do not owe you in particular hospitality or having you over for something. They ought to be hospitable. Like, that's a command. But it is not a command that they be hospitable specifically to you. It's a command that you also be hospitable.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just a problem that it's such a one-sided, like, I ought to get this much in my welfare check from the church of
but I think
people
the other side
fascinated
is,
by me.
I think a lot of ladies have major guilt trips because they're not,
Or they don't feel loving enough.
well, they just feel like, I'm supposed to be dear friends with this person, and I just don't feel like
I don't like him.
Yeah.
I'm not interested, really.
And that's not...
Did I do that bad noise?
There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise in the background now because... Here.
Because I pushed
down.
that.
That rumble, though.
Did I do it?
Yeah, well, whenever we turn it on, it does that. Anyway,
Sorry, everyone.
we'll just warm it up for a second, then get rid of the rumble. No, I just think that women can be oppressed by this sense of guilt because they just feel like they're supposed to be really good friends with that woman over there, and she's... I will say,
I've talked about this so many times in my life, but is that you remember back before you got your driver's license?
Mm-hmm.
Where you felt like, when I get my driver's license, it's going to be a completely different world.
Yeah.
In this amazing future where I'm going to have my driver's license. Well, then you thought it would be fun to get married and have kids.
Yeah.
And in the future that you imagine where you're married and have kids, you assume there will be no headaches.
No, the house is clean.
There will not be rain
good.
when you didn't want it. There is not any such thing as hormonal problems in that future. It's the foggy future where there are no obstacles.
The curtains will be softly
blowing.
blowing.
And the amazing thing about humans is that we do it both directions. It's only in the present that we experience the trauma. Like in the past, we're like,
we gloss
those
it up.
were the good times.
The good old days.
It was so great back then.
High school.
I loved that.
The glory days.
Yeah, it was so good.
And in the future...
we're like, it's going to be way better then. And then in the present... we don't like it. Well, in the same way, we do that with friendships, that we idealize what it would be like to have a friend, what it ought to be like, and then two ways: we feel sorry for ourselves that we don't have it, or we are women who feel riddled with guilt that we don't enjoy, just in like a pure glee kind of a way someone else's company.
But the thing is, like it's not like we're saying like, oh, now you can just cut people off and you don't have to try to be friends. Because you do. Totally. You owe them, especially if they're Christian brothers and sisters, like you do actually owe them a particular kind of Christian charity. But again, like it depends on the person. It depends on the situation.
Do you think it's safe to use Dad's thing about discerning the Lord's will here? Is it like, if you're actually wondering, do I need to be friends with this person specifically? Beyond the charity, the Christian charity love category that all humans really should be in.
But a particular kind for Christians.
For fellow believers. Do you have the ability to be their friend, the opportunity, or the desire?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and if you don't have the ability, the opportunity, or the desire, or if you only have, I think the second one, the first one, the ability, there is like a warning signal that you can feel like, I am not what this person is looking for. Like, I do not have the capacity to be a friend at the level that this person is wanting to be a friend at. And that is often the category that trips women up, because they're thinking, I don't feel like I can go here. But then they think, should I feel bad about that? Because should I be willing to lay my whole life down for this person? And it's like, no, because if you don't have the ability to continue doing what you ought to be doing in your life while taking this on, then no. Do you have the desire to be their friend? Well, if you really don't, and I would say, because we keep talking about treating them lawfully from the heart, that does mean that in your behavior to them, you want to know confidently that you're honoring God, that you're not just self-serving, like, I don't want to pursue that person, or I don't want to do this. But that if you're saying, Lord, if you want me to pursue this friendship, would you make it clear to me that this is your will for me? And would you, but that's the primary thing that you want to be doing, and not responding to want ads for friends out of guilt.
Right.
And then getting stuck in a horrible bog of doom.
Which is like half resentful, half guilty, half unhappy.
And non-friendly.
Yeah. And the other thing is, with your kids, I think it's a big deal to teach your kids how to be friends. And one major piece of it is you want to, like the way we always talk in our family about filling up their tank, where they are topped off with all the love, all the affection, all the encouragement that they need. They're topped off at home so that they are not desperately trying to find it from friends. So, and I think parents really can make their kids secure enough that if they don't have a good friend, it's fine. If they do have a good friend, it's great. If it's not, because...
Or if someone who was their friend in one grade turns on them weirdly in the
turns
next
on
grade,
them,
that they
or
can
they
weather
move.
that
Yeah.
they can weather that
or they
storm.
move, or they kind of pick a different friend, and,
It's kind of like your friendships should be like you're surfing or skiing or something, where you're keeping your knees a little bent so you're
Yeah.
ready to absorb shocks. Like,
Yeah.
you expect this to not be...
Yeah, but I think as parents, it's really important to fill their tank up so that they're not looking for it elsewhere.
I would say that real practically on that point, like, obviously the first step would be the parents themselves really loving on that kid and listening to him, talking with them, taking care of him. But we have done from time to time through the years, when one of our kids is having an especially nasty time of it for some reason, we talk about it at the dinner table. Like we have said before, like, kids, like this particular, because they don't all tell everyone, you know what I mean? Like, they would probably tell us in private what was going on, and we were not there. It was like, this is an update. This is a family meeting about this member of our family. We would just say, this person has been having a really hard time at school because, whatever. And say that, like, one time I can remember us just saying, someone was, one of our kids was having trouble with classmates where it was a lot of rude remarks and exclusions, and it was unkind stuff. And we were like, so family meeting here is that we want you all to know that that is happening to this person at school, and we want you all to know that this is where this child belongs and will have none of that. Like, nobody here. And then we will, not just in this instance, but it was actually a super encouraging time for that kid because of the total affection for them from the siblings who were just like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. And then we do this periodically where we go around the table, like, everyone has to say something that they really love about this person. Part of that is that we want our kids to be, we're not a really crazy emotive we're not really that emotive. I just mean we want them to be practiced at being able to admire each other and not be competitive, but be like, I'm proud of you for this, and I admire this about you. And so we'll just take a little lap around the table of encouraging remarks from everyone to this person. And then it's like, okay, so like, and that's just a very practical way to try to fill up someone's tank, is that we want you to know how much you are loved here, how much we, because the reality is we have a big family. Even if you don't have a big family, it's easy for that topic to not come up, or for you to only admire your kid in the secrets of your heart and to think you're going to corrupt them if you tell them that you like them. If I give them any positive feedback, I will make them explode with pride, rather than thinking you're just giving them a secure foundation of love. Like,
exactly. And I just think, like, teaching your kids to be picky about who they choose to surround themselves with. You're just in the group you're in. Especially if you're in school, you don't get to pick your class. It is what it is. God put these people around you, and so you have to be charitable, you have to be kind, you have to be humble, you have to be, all of those things. But then, like, who are you going to really be close to and spend time with? You really have to teach your children to be wise there. And it's impossible to do that if you as a parent are crippled by all of these issues yourself.
No, you're never going to give them any kind of steady approach to it.
And if you as a mom feel like, if somebody wants to be my friend, I automatically have to do that, how on earth are you going to teach your kid to stand up to any peer pressure at all?
It's like the least amount of using your judgment you could possibly have to say, like, whoever wants to be my friend is my friend.
Has to
That's
be.
a really
Yeah.
low level of, like, why
Whoever
don't we
wants to
aim
be
a
your
little
head,
higher
your
for what
friend,
discretion is?
You owe them all the duties that Scripture lays out.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is like, if you want your kids to be able to stand up to kids at school who want to get them to do things, well, you have to be the
Start
kind
on
of
that.
person yourself that is able to stand up to your own particular kind of peer pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it's a funky, I think because Christians know they're supposed to love each other, they get tangled up here. And they feel
So
like,
I would say that if there is a circumstance where you actually need to have more distance with someone than you do have, or you've gotten into a position where you're not comfortable with it, emphasis on the treating them lawfully from the heart is helpful and important.
right.
Because if you're
I'm sorry. It's bothering me.
I just thought out of the corner of my eye that Megan was pulling her eyelashes out.
No,
but
I wasn't.
She wasn't, guys. But that false alarm, the
That's
dead
not
airwaves, was like, what? So the thing I was going to
recently
say,
taken that up.
I was like,
since
what's
you last
happening?
noticed.
So the thing that I was going to say is that if you need to have more distance between you and someone who's like doing something weird, like picking their eyelashes out.
I was not.
Say in a situation like mine that I find myself suddenly in, say that you need more distance from someone. Emphasize in your own heart, think about it. Are you treating them lawfully from the heart? And then do what you need to do to create more distance, like to do that while maintaining completely lawful treatment from the heart.
Yeah.
And that is the way that you ride out awkwardness and whatever. It's like you can still love them, you can still be very kind, you can be
Now,
everything.
I know somebody wrote though and asked us, what about when all the friends you're surrounded with aren't very good? Like they're not reading their Bibles. They're not interested in growth. They're not, and those are the only people you've got around you. Like, how do you conduct yourself in that situation? Like, because that's a very difficult set of friends right there. You know?
Yeah, and I would say that I think what's most difficult about it is needing to acknowledge that they can't be your good friends.
Yeah.
Because what you're basically saying is, it's sort of like, what if you find yourself in a position where the only men of a marriageable age are pagans? You might be like, well,
don't
get married. You know what I mean? Like the rule of faithfulness here is not to compromise how you feel you should be living. But my guess is that if you were to get more serious about that you might find that there is someone in that crowd who would be willing to, like, if it was like, listen, we're all professing Christians. If you're not interested in reading your Bibles, like, is anyone interested in reading their Bible?
But if you're going through a particular sort of time of drought, I guess, where there isn't anyone who is on the same page with you, if you feel like you're the only one, if you would really like somebody else, a friend that you could talk to, but you don't have it, like, you know, what do you do in that situation? It seems like the obvious thing is you can't go around trying to boss everybody into it. Like, you can't try and make them all turn into the kind of friend that you need. So really, it's sort of like, give it to God, pray for them that He would bring a friend, pray that He would bring them along, you know, pray that He would teach you what are the lessons you're supposed to be learning during this time when you don't have a friend. And I think that's kind of the biggest thing, is ask God, what is it that you are trying to teach me right now? And then figure out how to learn that. You know, like, what is God working on with me, and how can I facilitate that process? And so if it's just a particularly sort of blank moment where nobody else is doing it, and honestly, in that case, like, just be a good example, lead by example, don't lead by trying to
and you may
talk everybody into it.
The reality is, God may call you to some years of not a lot of friends around. Like, that happens. And I think that has happened. Like, raise your children, like focus on raising people who will be good friends. Be a good friend to your children work hard on just honoring God, and He really will provide everything that you need. Like, a friendship is not the thing that you must have. Like, and obviously it's a gift, but it's not something.
Yeah.
All right, so
Tip.
wow,
What
we
you
went
got?
long.
I think this is about how we always go.
Always forever long. My tip.
If you really hustled, you could probably still plant wheatgrass for Easter. That's always fun.
Oh.
It grows remarkably fast. If you just buy wheat berries at the grocery store and plant them in cute little containers, like
Right.
get out some funky vases and things and plant wheatgrass in it, and it grows so fast. That's always fun. I haven't done it yet this year, but
Yeah, that is fun. I haven't done much prep. I have to figure out the pastries for this weekend, and then I'll be on to thinking again about real Easter, what we're doing then. We have another podcast before then.
do we? Are
We
we gonna
should.
speak of Easter next time?
Maybe, we'll see.
Yeah.
All right, well, you all have a good night.
All right. Goodbye.
Back at you next time.
I'm a 2009 graduate of New St. Andrews College, and I'm a commercial property manager.
3 kids at Logos, 1 at home still, and I do flowers on the side out of our house. When you have these little people that you're responsible to shepherd, you realize I need to know what I'm talking about because they need to have a firm foundation and they need deep roots so that they don't get blown over and that they're ready to stand up for the truth.
I am a programmer. The language aspect of NSA is a fantastic preparation for any sort of programming.
I'm a real estate broker here in town. I think absolutely the perfect education for being in sales of really any kind.
I actually put it to a lot of great use when I was working in the political realm.
I am a pastor in Central Coast, California. Whatever vocation you take, it'll make you take that seriously because you're seeing it through the lens of the sovereignty and lordship of Christ.
To learn more, visit us online at nsa.edu.